We can get a bit more on this and speak to South American football expert Tim Vickery, who is live in Rio. What is the latest from there? What do we know about the situation?
Well, you know, I've been in the stadium for all previous Brazil versus Argentina World Cup qualifiers. I'm very glad I wasn't in the stadium yesterday. I felt very shortchanged after just 5 minutes and 10 seconds of action. More details have come out of what happened over the past few days. And Argentina's surprise on the field that the health officials had entered is a little bit disingenuous, because it was clear to all concerned that there was a problem on Saturday. The UK is on Brazil's red list, just as Brazil is on the UK's red list, and non-Brazilians who come to Brazil, who've been in the UK within the last 14 days, have to enter a period of quarantine. Quite why this wasn't picked up at the airport when the players arrived in Brazil on Friday morning is a mystery here. It seems that an Argentine FA official filled out incomplete information regarding the travel history of the 4 Premier League players. But by Saturday, Anvisa, Brazil's sanitary authority, was aware of the problem. And there were 2 meetings on Saturday, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, when it was made clear to Argentina that there was a problem and that the 4 players should be in quarantine. They could do that quarantine in the hotel. The players were, both Argentina and the South American football authorities were asked to make a special request to Brazil's government to give them exceptional status, to allow them to stay in the country and play the game. All of them, I understand, have been fully vaccinated and had negative COVID tests. Now, the slapstick element here comes in from the fact that tomorrow is a holiday in Brazil. It's Independence Day, and it seems that Brazil's equivalent of the State Department were on an extended holiday and didn't respond to this request for an exceptional status for the Premier League-based Argentine players. So Argentina went along to the stadium anyway. They felt they had the complete backup of the sporting authorities, that they had observed all of the sporting protocols that were in place, for example, during the Copa America that took place in June and July. But without any waiver from the government, officials from Anvisa felt that they had no choice but to invade the field. They didn't know until the Argentina coach left, until the team bus left the hotel. They didn't know that these players would not be maintaining in quarantine. So the problem was evident to them. At that point, they raced to the stadium, and then 5 minutes and 10 seconds. It was a very intense 5 minutes and 10 seconds. But after just 5 minutes and 10 seconds, they invaded the field. And Argentina made it quite clear, as I think any football team would have done in those circumstances, that there was no way that the game would continue without those 3 players on the field.
I mean, goodness me. Is there much embarrassment in Brazil about how this was handled and what unfolded, you know, in such a huge game?
There's a lot of blame pointing going on between the 2 sides here. From the Brazilian point of view, they're saying, well, that they were only trying to uphold sanitary rules. From the Argentina point of view, they're saying that this is a farce. There were no such steps taken when 4,000 a day were dying in Brazil from coronavirus. Why do it now when the situation is brought much more under control? And Argentina think that they have the backing of the sports authorities. This makes this situation very difficult for FIFA. CONMEBOL, South America's UEFA equivalent, have happily passed this one on to FIFA. It is, of course, a FIFA competition, and you can understand why they want to play pass the parcel when they can hear that parcel ticking, because Brazil will argue, I think, that in terms of where the points should go, Brazil will argue that from a legal point of view they are correct. Argentina might argue that from a sporting point of view they are correct, and it's very difficult to find another date in an already overcrowded calendar when this game could be replayed. Goodness me.
And what do we know about where the Premier League players are now, what they've had to do?
There was a fear in the Argentina camp that on their return to Sao Paulo airport after the game that didn't happen, that the 4 Premier League players would be deported to the UK. That was a fear. That didn't happen. The players weren't actually deported. They were allowed to leave the country freely, so back to Buenos Aires. Interestingly, last week, Argentina coach Lionel Scaloni, he said that he knew of no deal with Aston Villa, and that as far as he was concerned, the players would be available for the third game. Argentina host Bolivia on Thursday night as well. So there's plenty more conflict coming up this week, and more conflict coming up next month, because October World Cup qualification in South America will also be a triple header, 3 games, meaning that it will only end on the Thursday night, making it impossible for the players to be back, even without quarantine requirements, making it impossible for the players to be back for the fixtures at the weekend.
Gosh, thank you for well, sort of clearing that up, and I'm sure we'll learn a little bit more about it and what will be happening with these players and when they'll return officially to the UK. Finally, there are reports about Pele being hospitalised. What can you tell us about that?
That he went into hospital for routine tests at the end of August, tests that didn't happen last year because of the pandemic. And clearly the doctors have found something. We don't know what it is, so he's been in hospital since. We've seen some posts on social media trying to reassure his many millions of fans all around the world. But for the moment, all we know is routine tests found some health problem, and he's in hospital as a consequence.